We continue with a reaction to the release on parole of Oscar Pistorius. We're now joined by Bulelwa Adonis from lobby group Women for Change. Bulelwa, a very good afternoon and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Bulelwa, just maybe let's start with your reaction as Women for Change to the parole, its conditions and everything that comes with it.
I think overall, we think that his release sends a very concerning message to the greater society, considering how high our femicide rate is, that it's 5 times the global average. And, we do understand that he's going to have lots of restrictions and everything, and that, yes, he did serve some amount of time. But we feel like we're very disheartened and discouraged by it, because we feel like in a country that feels like a safe haven for predators, that parole shouldn't be something that should be given to any predators of GBVF.
So with that said, I mean, as the family was saying that they do understand that the law has taken its course, but then how do we then, and from your perspective as a movement, just deal with this going forward to make sure that the rights of victims and families of victims, are upheld, in this sort of instances?
I think, like I just said, we don't think as an organization that parole should be given to any predators of any form of femicide or gender-based violence, because I feel like in a country like ours that's normalized things like victim blaming, where we have a normalized rape culture amongst us and how we talk, and I guess as a country, it's almost as if we've become numb to expecting a gruesome headline on the news. And I think that maybe believing victims on our part as a society, we need to start by doing that. But I think just as the greater society, not just relying on like maybe government or people in positions of influence, I think we need to start holding people accountable. I think accountability is something that needs to be heavily emphasized on. I think we need to start educating one another. I think anti-GBV education needs to be implemented in our schools from a young age. I think we need to deal with things like corruption, because victims and survivors are getting re-traumatized in places like our police stations. We're still dealing with things like the DNA backlog. So even those who take the justice route, who take the course, and get like a rape kit, unfortunately, they're still going to have to endure a waiting period of waiting for their time for their rape kit to be processed. So we have all of these things that we can like touch on. And I think that also understanding that we shouldn't be reliant on one party or maybe our government or the leaders, but all of us should understand that we all need to play a role in this.
So what then, as a society, needs to be done is to say things should not be left in government's hands, right? Then you will have movements. We just spoke to Not In My Name. We're speaking to Women for Change and many other lobby groups. But then we still have this big issue of gender-based violence that come August, we have this many cases, we start talking about it, but nothing seems to get better. How then do we find that sweet spot to try and deal with this issue? Because clearly it doesn't seem like we have the right formula to deal with gender-based violence in South Africa. I
think something that we've taken note of is that there's an inconsistency in effort, be it from government or maybe society in general or all of us. There's an inconsistency in effort towards fighting this scourge, this pandemic that is gender-based violence as well as femicide. And I think that we need to stop having this battery-powered anger. And for instance, something like 16 Days of Activism. We understand that it's a very important initiative, but the mere fact that we've subjected a 365-day pandemic to 16 days is quite telling. It's quite telling, and it exposes the reality that we only speak about this now and then. We only wait for 16 days to speak about this. We only wait for somebody to die to take things seriously. And I think just to mention all those things, once again, that I said, from educating one another, holding each other accountable, all these different things. And I think something as simple as, I don't know why we've normalized, still maintaining friendships and holding and defending predators essentially. Because, like you said, you don't have to wait for our leaders or anything. I think that it starts within your circle, looking at how do people behave and taking accountability to it and asking yourself, are you going to associate yourself with that behavior or not?
Is it then a societal issue in that as you say, that we know the perpetrators and these predators. They stay with us. They stay in the same neighborhoods, in the same country. They go to the same shops and malls. They're on the same streets with us. And as a result, nothing much seems to be done. Is it a societal issue that whether we've become numb to this or we just, I don't know, lost faith in the system to do something about it?
I think that I definitely agree when you say that as a society we've become numb to this. I definitely 100% agree with that. I'm not sure. I would say that maybe it's a societal issue because of the state of our justice system. And the ironic thing is that our legislation is one of the best in the world. But I think it's high time that the legislation and all the amazing laws that we have is a reflection of our reality. Because right now it isn't, and for decades it hasn't been. Why do we still see our statistics rising? So I wouldn't fully, blame us as the society. I think that it starts with just the justice system and how maybe they have curated this normalization of maybe a behavior of violence and putting us as a society in a point where we've become numb to it. I think at some point maybe everybody needs to be held accountable at some extent. I do think that the state of our justice system has infiltrated greatly on maybe it becoming a societal issue.
And maybe looking at a point that I was speaking to, not in my name with, just before we spoke to you, in that are we also seeing the same attention being given to gender-based violence, or a case like Oscar Pistorius' case will then get the attention that it gets from the media and otherwise purely because it's high profile, whereas some of the stories that happen on a daily basis in our backyards, in our neighborhoods, are not really given the same attention?
Unfortunately not. I think the only difference about this case is that it got international traction. I guess it's just who Oscar Pistorius is and, being known worldwide. I guess that's the only difference in this case. But in reality, the mere fact that we don't see enough of the murders, the killings, the girls that go, the people that go missing, it speaks volumes to the fact that this is not taken seriously. The numbingness that we were talking about, how normalized we are to this, that we look to social media and only in social media can we educate on such information. But unfortunately not in most cases. Most of the time, gender-based violence, for like you said, our everyday stories, those of us who don't have the platform or influence like Oscar does, that reaches international traction, it doesn't get the traction that what Oscars is getting, in this present time.
And just finally then, as Women for Change, what would be your key takeout out of this Oscar Pistorius incident, in that he is out on parole? We are told that strict conditions. The family is saying that, look, there's nothing we can do. We accept what has happened. We just need our own space, not to be bothered by media and otherwise. But as a lobby group that deals with this sort of cases, what would be your final message on this matter?
I think that considering the DMs that we get, the stories we hear, the pictures that are sent our way, and the outcome of this case, we realize that unfortunately it seems like there's a normalization of leniency, because our main question is, why is parole given to any perpetrator that has committed any form of gender-based violence or femicide? Because in our eyes that would seem like it would seem like justice in our eyes. So you've just seen yet again that it seems like victims and survivors and their loved ones are not taken that seriously, unfortunately.
Right, Bulelwa, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for making time to speak to us. Bulelwa Adonis from Women for Change. Let's